I've been. Dreams are seeds we plant, my friend. Dusty boots, but a heart of gold. Your story's waiting to be told. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small but shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Cowbell ring and feel the beat. Hustle hard, don't take a seat. Every step you're blazing trails. Invented journey never fails. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small but shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small but shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small but shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Your time is now, your stars align. Your time is now, your stars align.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. You ever need help with yours? Just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we are always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Adam Povlitz. And Adam started his journey studying finances in college. And then after that, went to work for IBM for a little bit of time. There was a bit of a layoff around there that where you had to help select how or who and how or they went. And then after that, I had an opportunity to shift or work with the family business, doing I think telemarketing and cleaning toilets at a daycare for a period of time. And then learned what everyone does at the business. Eventually worked his way up, became a CEO and president, and then made a bit of a shift towards a technology focus, in particular on the customer service aspect of utilizing technology. So, with that much as a quick introduction, welcome on the podcast, Adam.
Well, thank you for having me, Devin. I think the only thing you left out is like that I may make a pretty mean chicken parm. I
All
appreciate all
right.
that.
Well, we'll have to get your secret recipe sometime, but otherwise, gave just kind of a quick overview to a much longer journey. But why don't we rewind and unpack that a bit and tell us a little bit about how your journey got started going off to college studying finance.
Yeah, so in actually in high school, my parents told me I had to take Latin as my foreign language, and I absolutely learned to just like loathe foreign language. At the time, I didn't understand it. I was terrible at it. The teacher wasn't very good, and now hindsight, right? I wish I've learned several languages, but I actually picked business, ironically enough, because I didn't want to take a foreign language requirement in college, and the business college was the only one that didn't require it. And the ultimate irony, and fast forward, right, is that I'm in a probably 80% Hispanic Spanish speaking or Portuguese speaking industry at this point. And man, do I wish I had learned Spanish all those years ago. But yeah, so I picked a major in business, and always was curious about how things worked and managing things like that. Decided at the time I was a numbers guy. Always was good at math, enjoyed numbers, went that route. Got into investment banking for a little bit and realized after, you work, gosh, 60, 70, 80 hour weeks when you're in an investment banking world. I realized I didn't like numbers as much as I thought I did. Um, Ultimately got my MBA with a concentration still in finance, but then also in marketing. Um, and stayed, I think, in my comfort zone, and ultimately went to IBM as a financial analyst. You kind of alluded to it earlier that I was just a few years into my career there, and it was 2008, and I was an analyst, and they said, "Hey, here's a bunch of employee numbers, pay packages, and exit packages." That was the Great Recession back then, and they said, "We need you to analyze to essentially who's going to be given the severance packages, who's being let go, who's getting the golden parachute, who's not getting a parachute." And I'm a young guy at this point, and that definitely leaves you with a pit in your stomach when you're kind of in that situation. You go, man, I could easily be 30, 40-year old guy working here, and they just hired some other 20 something that's now deciding my fate.
Hmm.
It doesn't sit well with you. So I happened to be down for the holidays. I was chatting with my father who founded Anago. And he goes, "Man, I think I got the tiger by the tail on this thing. You should come check it out." And it was about 6 months later, I ended up joining, and he goes, "Listen, you're going to come in, and people are going to go, oh, it's the founder's son, so we can't have that. So you're leaving your high five." His exact words were highfalutin. I don't even know if anybody says that word anymore. Highfalutin finance job, and you're going to be a telemarketer by day and a franchisee's assistant at night. And we were cleaning daycares. And so I quite literally did everything, every position at Anago from day one. I started telemarketing and cleaning. I moved into sales. I did customer service. And that was all before I even moved to then the corporate office. And then at the corporate office, they actually put me in HR. I do not have but the intention was essentially to say, "Hey, listen, get with every single employee, get a job description, understand what it is they do, um, and utilize that ultimately to determine, like, okay, what are the key roles here? How are people being utilized? Is there any underutilization? Can we redeploy people?" Um, and then so I was able to get into the pretty deep into the corporate office pretty quickly. And then they said, "Okay, now that you know everyone here, you have to go out and learn everyone in the field." And so I was traveling. I think it was called a franchise developer. I was traveling the country, meeting with our master franchisees, learning their stories, learning what their pain points were. And mind you, I'm probably late 20s, early 30s at this point, and and the business had been around for over 20 years. So I have to approach it like, who is this, this young kid they're sending to my office to tell me how to run my business. So I go, let me not go in from a position of telling them how to run their business. Let me come in from like a servant leadership approach of like, "Hey, how can I help you grow your business better, faster, smarter, cheaper?" And I think that essentially was the leadership kind of mentality that I've taken along with me as I've been promoted up the way. And then ultimately it was made president in 2015 and CEO in 2018.
So now a couple things. So, you went in and said, hey, probably, a fair thing. We don't want to be accused of nepotism and even beneficial to, don't want to, have people perceive you as, just kind of, hey, this is family. So they get all the perks and they don't know anything about the business and just kind of get it handed to them. So now as you worked your way through, did kind of starting from the ground up and going through all of that, did it overcome that or did it address that? Or was that always just kind of something that was in the back of people's mind and you just had to understand it, realize it, and just move on and not worry about it? Or kind of, how did you deal with that? Or was that a good path to dealing with it?
I mean, I think initially, I mean, there was definitely that, sentiment out there with, some employees, some franchisees. But and it took a couple years of, really proving my worth and saying, look, here are all the things I'm doing. Here are all the initiatives I'm pushing to help you. And ultimately, it got to the point where, people stopped looking at me as the founder's son and like, no, this is our go-to guy if we need anything to help grow our businesses. And I think that in particular, right? I mean, it's they say, making sure you're helping your employees be happy at work, and I very much support that. But in the franchise industry, it's probably the most tightly tied to to that servant leadership model, because at the end of the day, if your franchisees are making more money, so are you. And so it was very easy for me to, use that as like my kind of way in, but then also, everyone benefits. So win-win-win, and you earn some respect for that pretty quickly.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. Now, worked your kind of way up, got to, more managerial roles before kind of in the end, taking the leadership role or the ownership role of the business. Now, as you stepped into that role, I think you mentioned, but putting words in your mouth that you're definitely invited to correct. You started to shift a little bit of the focus or expand it to incorporate or to utilize technology and kind of addressing some of the shortcomings in the industry, but maybe walk us through a little bit as you kind of took on that role. How did you continue to evolve, and grow the business?
I mean, I've always been a nerd, and maybe it didn't work out so well for me in high school, but it sort of is working out later, right, in adulthood. And so I've always enjoyed technology, and using it to improve my life, improve aspects of anything I do to make it more efficient. And so I think it was a natural, transition to start saying, how can we leverage technology in this business? So let me give you an example though of how we leverage it, because we don't have better mops and buckets, or more technologically advanced chemicals. I mean, anything I can get, any of my major competitors can get their hands on any of that stuff. So we invested our technology on the customer service side of the business. And the reason being is, like any other franchise model, like let's say restaurants, you can have three levels of experience. You can have a delight experience, right? Good waiter, great food. You can have a terrible experience. The food is cold, the waiter was a jerk. Or just sort of that middle of the road, like it's fine, nothing memorable here. In cleaning, we don't have three levels. We have two. Nobody goes, oh, my office is so clean, I'm going to get my janitor a birthday present. It just doesn't work like that, unfortunately. A little thankless. You either get to your office and you go, well, I got to work, and you don't think about the cleaning, or you get to your office and you're like, why is my trash can still full? Or like, why is the bathroom kind of have that funky smell to it? Or what's going on? What is this cleaning company doing? Um, and so, on one hand, my business is very people oriented. And so on one hand, it's great because you're not going to get exported to China. Amazon doesn't come to town and put me out of business. AI, I'm probably the last industry on the AI and robotics list to even bother coming into. But on the other hand, right, because you have people naturally make mistakes. And so there's an inevitability of something going wrong. And so we said, how do we take those circumstances where that something did go wrong, where that trash can did get left full, and use that to essentially make, a raving fan moment where, hey, we respond faster than anybody you've ever dealt with in the cleaning business. We respond, more efficiently, more privately, and we're able to do that. So we created a software called CleanCom, that's proprietary to us. So right now, if if your office is being cleaned by one of my competitors, what happens if there's an issue? You have to either figure out, who cleans the place and call them up, right? You go on their website, maybe somebody answers, maybe they don't. Maybe there's a little book in your office where you're like, leave a little notebook for them and you're supposed to communicate in the notebook. But then it's like, hey, do you speak Spanish? Or hey, do you speak Portuguese? Does somebody speak their language so I can communicate? And so it turns into this weird, and then like, how do I even know if they responded or did anything or whatever? So now it turns into this crazy, cat and mouse chasing game. We said, if this is my pain point moment, I need to make it as easy as possible to complain. So CleanCom is you take out your phone, you go onto our CleanCom app, you take a picture of whatever your issue is. You communicate through your phone, so it's no texting, it's all private messaging. It has built-in Google Translate, so you can speak in any language, and so can your service provider. It has an automatic 2 hour response guarantee, so you will get responded to within 2 hours, or it gets escalated to the regional office. Um, and all of that essentially allows you to track what issues are being reported, how are they being responded to, how fast are they being responded to, and then on the back end, we took it a step further and said we need to be able to prevent these issues from happening in the first place. And so it also then notifies the regional master franchise owner, hey, this franchisee happened to have two complaints at this customer, or hey, they happen to have two or three complaints where maybe they weren't cleaning the restrooms properly. You should probably bring them back in, put them through a retraining on how to properly service, that area and recertify them to clean so that we can essentially, we call it preventive analytics, where we're able to then prevent that problem happening from that same service provider again.
No, I think that sounds like it's a great opportunity really to innovate in an industry that probably doesn't have a lot of innovation and is fairly stagnant and to predict a lot of those problems. It sounds like it's a great a way to shift the business and to set yourself apart. So now that you've kind of, both integrated that within the business, taken over, incorporated that, and if you're to now kind of look out into the next, 6 to 12 months, kind of where do you see things headed, and then kind of what does that look like for you?
So for us, we've invested pretty heavily in national and regional account expansion. So in my model, your average master franchise owner is looking to clean or have cleaned by his janitorial franchisees. Your everyday businesses in your community, right? Your local schools, offices, doctors, attorneys, whatever. What the national regional accounts does is we're playing in a different space. And so essentially we're saying, okay, when, Amazon is looking to have a bunch of warehouses cleaned, or Coca-Cola or Pepsi or any of the major players are looking to have something done. Do we have coverage, which now as a large franchise system we do. And how do we make sure we're on that RFP and able to bid it? And it's great because it's a new source of revenue where if you were only the franchisee in Cleveland, Ohio, well, you're not going to be able to bid on the 40 locations of Pepsi. You can only bid on one, and so you immediately get disqualified because Pepsi doesn't want to have you clean one location when they can find one vendor that can cover 30 or 40 of them in a single swoop. So it allows us to then unlock another area of business. And that area for us, we just started opening that aspect of business in 2023, and literally every year it has doubled to the point where at the end of this year we're expecting it to be a probably 9 or 10 figure line of business for us.
No, it sounds like some are good ongoing opportunities, areas for growth, and otherwise to continue to build the business. So. Well, now as we've reached the present day of the journey and even a little bit looking to where things are headed, always a great time to transition to the two questions I always like to ask towards the end of each episode. So we'll jump to those now. So the first question I'd like to ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made, and what'd you learn from it?
So one of the worst business decisions I ever made was was something I did twice, but the opposite way. First, I invested in all this software well before we were ready without consideration for rollout and like how do you adoption and all that sort of stuff, right? You have this dream in your mind as someone who's coming up with a cool technology to fix everyone's problems. But you don't consider like, okay, now who's going to use it? How do you train them to make sure they understand it? And so we had spent, well into 6 figures on creating some of this software, and then it just sat stagnant. And I said, man, I will never own software again. I will only, lease it from a major player like, a HubSpot or whatever. And then funny is I started going that route, and as much as I don't have anything negative to say about any of the Salesforce, HubSpot, whatever. But now with the advent of AI, I literally am going like I got to get out of this leasing program and start building and buying my own software again. So it's like the same same bad decision in some regards, but at the same but from the opposite side of it. I wish I didn't build it myself in the first place, and then I leased it, and now that I'm leasing it, I'm really quickly going like, man, we need to build it ourselves again.
No, sounds like definitely easy mistakes to make, and kind of the always is a question: do you build it, or do you to buy it, or do you lease it type of thing, and do you let other, or you get it from others, or do you have to make it internally? And hard question to answer, easy to make mistakes, but great area to learn from. So sounds like you made those mistakes, but learned from them on both ends. So. Well, now the second question I'd like to ask is, so now if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one rule of thumb you'd recommend?
Um, I think it's one rule that I learned late, and it would be hire people that are smarter than you and get out of the way. I through my journey through my journey at Anago, I always, I think everyone's journey in the corporate world, right? You go from manager to director to VP, and you're climbing up the ranks, and you're climbing up the ranks because you're doing it your way, and the company sees the value in your way, or the profits come in, or the revenue comes in, or whatever it is that your function is, and so they put more people under you, and they learn to do it your way. When you get to the CEO role, you find out like everything you learned about doing it that way, you have to unlearn it, because now you've become the bottleneck of your own business, where now every decision is flowing through you. And essentially, you don't have a business anymore. You have a job, and you're the, head decision maker on everything, and everyone comes to you and asks you, what do I do here? Um, and while, when you look at all the aspects of a business, marketing, finance, operations, you might be an expert on one of those, but very realistically, you're not going to be an expert on all of them. And so to me, I wish I would have 10 years ago gotten out of my own way, hired people that were smarter than me in these various fields, and ultimately just said like, hey, here's my expectation for the end result. As long as it's ethical, I don't care how you get there. But I'm going to let you empower you and just have you do it your way, and let's speed this thing up exponentially faster and further than we'd be along today.
No, that makes sense. Great rule of thumb, and a good takeaway. So. Well, now as we do wrap towards the end of the episode, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
So you can find out a lot more information on our website. It's anagocleaning.com. That's ANAGO cleaning.com. And we're on all the social media. So, at Anago Cleaning. And then if you want to reach out to me personally, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So type in Adam Povlitz and shoot me a note, and I will be sure to get back to you.
Awesome. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, support a great business, make a new connection, and if nothing else, make a new best friend. So, with that, thank you again for coming on the podcast, Adam. Wish you the next leg of your journey even better than the last. Now, along those lines, if you any of the listeners have their own journey to share and they want to be a guest on the podcast, we'd love to have them. So just go to inventiveunicorn.com, apply to be on the show. A couple more things as listeners. Make sure to click share, subscribe, leave us a review. Helps us to reach even more startups and small businesses to help them along the journey to success. And along that note, if along your journey you ever need help with patents or trademarks or anything else with your startup or your small business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat. We're always here to help. Well, thank you again, Adam, for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thanks for having me.
The road ain't straight, it's got a bend. Dreams of seeds we plant, my friend. Dusty boots, but a heart of gold. Your story's waiting to be told. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small be shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Cowbell ring and feel the beat. Hustle hard, don't take a seat. Every step you're blazing trail. Inventive journey never fails.